It's been a while since I've done a live. It's weird. This OBS thing. All right. Hey, today I'm not going to talk flat earth like I normally do. I've just been seeing a lot of memes lately that has reminded me of a topic that's very near and dear to me, and I wanted to talk about it live on the YouTubes for fun. Nothing other than that. But, if it becomes educational, so be it. Share it to club owners. I don't care. I would like to see more club owners being aware of what's going on if they're not already. And I wonder because club owners seem to have this, I don't know, unrealistic expectation of original artists. I'm a musician. If the guitars behind me back here weren't some indication, I'm a musician. I'm a songwriter. I'm a composer. I'm a performing artist. I do it all. I play covers. I do originals. I do solo stuff. And I do duets with people. I've been around the scene. I'm in the Seattle area. And one of the most, I don't know, tired ass things that you hear from a club owner when you're looking for a band, or as a band when you're looking for a club to play, is, especially as an original artist, this isn't such a cover band problem, because most of the time cover bands are playing songs that are well established and nobody has to think about it, and they're good for dancing. And if you're a cover band, excuse me, I just showered recently. If you're a cover band, generally speaking, the product that you're offering is some sort of danceable music where people can come to the club and dance to it. Dancers buy drinks, club owners like people that buy drinks, etc., etc. It's an easy, symbiotic environment. It makes sense. But as an original artist, we battle something else. We're not known. We know that. You know that. Nobody knows our music, or at least there are 20 people, 20 plus people roughly, less than 100 most likely, that do. We call those our followers, or our fan base, or our people, our crowd, our draw. And a club owner wants us to have that draw when we're doing an original act. Of course they do. Why wouldn't they? They want to know that people are going to come to this particular event that you're putting on as the artist. They want to know that you're the one bringing in the people. But it seems to me that this business model, and it has failed. I mean, I've seen it fail all over this area, but it seems to fail. And I have some theories as to why. Now, there was a club in Seattle that was very well known for, well, it's very well known, first of all, but very well known for being the kind of pay-to-play sort of thing, kind of like Whiskey A Go-Go, I guess, in LA. Whereas a band, what you can do is you can book a gig there, and they'll let any band play, but you have to buy 250 tickets, and so you're going to make money by selling these tickets. So I guess the thought on this is that you can put up an event and sell and get 250 people there, or if you're really good at selling, you can get maybe a 10% and get 25 people there. And if you do, the tickets aren't so expensive that you couldn't make money off a certain number of sales. But the whole thought process behind it is that if you're able to get enough people there, you can make money. And the club benefits because they're not paying you. So I'm not stupid. I understand overhead. I know that club owners have electricity to pay. They have people on staff. They have sound guys that they have to pay that maybe aren't staff members. They buy equipment. And this place, to be fair to them, had some really fantastic gear for putting on live productions, and a really amazing sound guy that always made you sound like, I always thought it sounded like I was a rock star when I played there. And I played there before this pay-to-play situation sort of became a thing. It was a thing, but they didn't really sell the tickets at that point, and then they started selling them to you. It's a great venue to play, and it had sort of a all ages area and then a bar for the adults, and they could all be in the same establishment listening to music. But see, the problem with this type of venue is they're not scrutinizing bands. They're not picky. They don't care what they put in there, and they get a lot of testosterone driven, angst ridden youth who just want to jam hard rock. Occasionally, now I did a battle of the bands there once, and they'll bring in some people that are, kind of glam rock, maybe even just good old fashioned rock. But it's mostly just I want to punch you in the face and rape your daughter kind of music for the most part. And they have a draw somehow. But the thing is that when those people come to a show like that, they're only playing to their crowd. So a club owner likes to sort of, I don't know, push this into your direction as though, okay, you're a beginning artist, you're an original artist, nobody knows who you are, so let's go ahead and we will put you on our stage. We can't pay you, of course, because you're unknown, and we're not going to make any money, but we'll give you exposure. So for a brand new artist or a band who's never had a gig, that's an original act, this actually sounds pretty enticing. And I'll be honest, I've been there. It sounds enticing because now I get a chance to play in front of people, and maybe somebody will hear my music, and hopefully the idea is they will become a fan and want to hear more. The reality of it is, though, most people aren't going to become a fan of your songs the first time they hear it. Now, it's possible, it happens, I know, but the chances are less likely. And there's a lot of, like, I get into the socioeconomic factors of that, the emotional and the idiosyncratic nature of that, but I don't, that's not what this stream is about. This stream is about how we are sort of juxtaposed against a club that has to make money, that doesn't want to put money out on a risk that they don't know is going to please their people. So they're trying to give you the opportunity to become exposed to people, or for people to become exposed to you. And they give you this offer that, yeah, we'll have you up there, we'll put you on with a couple other bands, and then you'll get exposure. You can sell your CDs or whatever. So as a brand new band, you're gung-ho. You're like, okay, let's do it. But as a seasoned, practiced musician, that's played many clubs, when I hear that offer, not being a violent person, still want to make me want to punch people in the face, because, listen, I am good at what I do. Now, I could be better. I don't practice as much as I used to. When I don't practice, I get sloppy. But I'm not even afraid of getting up on stage right now and playing anything with anybody. Even if I've never heard a song, chances are pretty good I'm still going to be able to follow you. Just tell me what key you're in. Sometimes I don't even need that. Thing is, I have been around. I put in the work. I put in massive amounts of work. I put in a lot of work to get good at what I do. Now, granted, for me, it was a gift. I didn't have to work too hard at understanding it, but I'm a human being with a physical aspect to it. You have to be able to physically do something, and it is a struggle at first because your fingers are not designed to form these chords. They are designed for that. I shouldn't say that. They're not used to it. They're not out of the box ready to go. You're not just going to turn 14, pick up a guitar and say, cool, let's do this, I got it. You get very frustrated. There's a lot of effort and time and emotion that goes into it. But once you start to get it, it becomes easier and easier and easier. And the more you practice, the better you get. The kind of people that are going to be performing at your club have put in bachelor level hours into this particular act. Because playing guitar, I know I did it full time when I first started, from the time I was 14 to the time I was 15. Easily I put in 8-10 hours a day sometimes. I didn't have a job. I had school. And when I'd skip school, it would be weed and guitar, and I would smoke and play all day long. I don't smoke weed anymore, by the way. This was a long time ago. I did that a lot, and I put in, thousands of hours within a few short years. By the time I was 17, I probably had more hours than a bachelor student had in their degree after completing it. So I was a seasoned musician by then. I had a very musical family. I had a very solid understanding, still do, of music. I could always learn more. There's a lot I don't know, and sometimes I want to learn more when I have time. But I know enough right now to get on stage and perform 4 hours easily without a break, and have done it and still do it. In covers plus originals, I can do that any given day. And I'm not going to blow your people out of the club. I know that, so I don't mind charging you money to play those hours. If you book me, you're going to pay me. That's just the way it's going to be. And for that, you're going to get a man or a group of people that are going to be able to play and sing well enough that your regulars will enjoy the music, because there'll be songs they know, and they'll be done well. I'm not the best singer in the world, but I certainly don't suck. So when it comes down to it, I can be paid for this because I put in the time, and I'm going to provide you a service that you're going to be willing to pay for, and are willing to pay for, because I know this because club owners pay for bands. That's a given. But we're talking about the original artist. Now, I still, even though you've never heard my songs, I have still put in the time and effort into writing, performing, practicing, and becoming good at what I do. So I deserve to be paid for that. And it's just like anything else. If you were trying to add an extension on your house or just a deck on your backyard, you call a dude from either the internet or you have some old phone book that's sitting around that's for some reason they still deliver even to today. You're going to look that person up. You're going to interact with them a little bit over the phone or internet. They're going to come to your house. And at this point, you haven't paid them at all. But they're going to come to your house. They're going to look at your situation. And then they're going to try to determine, based on how much materials are going to be needed and how much time it's going to take them, based on their own experience and expertise, they're going to give you a quote. And at that point, you still haven't paid them, which is fine. But at some point, once you go forward on it, you are going to pay that person. There's never going to be an instance where somebody comes out to build you a deck that they're going to go free. And you're going to go, what? Cool. There's also never going to be an instance where you call them up and say, hey, build my deck. If you do, I will tell 600 of my friends that you did this job. And then you'll get all that extra exposure. I have lots of friends. I'll tell them, that guy is never going to build that deck for you. Because that guy pays for those, he pays for exposure. It's called advertising. When you're trying to advertise a product of any kind, music or otherwise, you're going to go target it at people that are looking for that product. That's what the search engine optimization is. You're on a website trying to determine the proper keywords so that somebody who's in the market for that service or product is going to use a keyword that will pull up your website onto a search index. Sometimes that's free. There's search engine marketing where you pay for that, and anytime that keyword pops up, you get to pay to be placed right there in front of a person so that you're marketing your product or service to a person that's actually looking for it. That is advertising. That's what your contractors are doing. And in a sense, that's kind of what us musicians are doing. We musicians are doing, pardon me, rather, we. Because we're going to a place where we know people like music. And who goes to a bar at any time of day and there's not music or some sort of audio entertainment? If they're not a football sports bar, there's going to be a jukebox playing. Inevitably, somebody wants to play that funky music, White Boy or whatever, or rock, I don't know. Eventually, somebody wants to hear that song, and they're going to play it on that jukebox. And of course, jukeboxes have become much, much more technologically advanced than they were back in the days of the 45 record, which I still do remember. But they pay for that. They pay for the song. People pay for music. Nobody wants to pay for original music, though. Okay? So here's what my suggestion is. First of all, club owners, we don't want exposure. Exposure for a club owner, from a club owner, is literally this. This is exactly what happens. I'll give you this scenario. You're a brand new original band. You contact the club owner. They've replied to you. They've said, yeah, we'll let you play. We have a date coming up. Go ahead and bring your stuff. We've got 2 other bands we'll put you on with. So we'll do a 3-hour set. You'll play 45 minutes to an hour. We'll bring up the next band. You'll go on first. They'll go on second, etc., etc. You go, cool, that's awesome. You start telling all your friends about it. And then pretty soon, you're like, how much is it? And the club owner's like, oh, hey, well, this is one of these things where you'll get exposure, to people. So you're like, well, okay, we're hoping to get paid. Like, well, we don't have a budget for music, but we do have a lot of people come in. So you're like, okay, so what you do is you weigh it out. You go, okay, so what that means is I'm not getting paid for all this effort. I'm going to put all my gear into a car. I'm going to take all the years of practice that I put into this gig, essentially, and I'm going to drive over there with my car, put wear on that, and put gas into it, of course, at some point to get to your club. Hopefully it's close by. If it's not, I'm putting in time as well. And once I get there, I'm going to spend a half hour setting up, and then there's a little sound check to do. Once I'm done playing the gig, after I've done that part of it, the most important part, I'm going to have to take all that stuff down, put it back in my car, drive home, whatever. I probably will buy a drink or two at the club while I'm there, maybe food. Maybe the club owner says, I can't pay you. This is often what happens. I can't really pay you, but I will give you or your band a certain amount of blah, 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 beer, alcohol, drinks, food, whatever, an appetizer, Some places will actually have like a specialized plate that they give out to the band. Some will say 2 drinks per member. Some will give the entire bar a tab. So if you go up there, you could drink 5 beers on the bar tab, and all your fellow bandmates are kind of screwed because you took up the whole tab. If you're a dick, which I'm not, at least not that. But yeah, so that's kind of like, all right. So we have to kind of talk amongst ourselves to figure out who's getting what, how much did you get? Oh, you got food, now it's half of the band tab. You know, it kind of becomes a shitty situation. So if you're an original band and you're in this situation, my advice to you, emotionally speaking, is just forget about any money. Do this for the fun and forget about it if you're going to agree to it. But know this. This is what happens 9 times out of 10. And you'll be able to identify this just by visiting a club on any given day. The exposure that this bar owner is usually talking about is like 6 people. So if a club, here's my belief. The club owner ain't going to do shit. They put up a poster. That's it. There's a poster of a band, and they're right next to the poster of 12 other bands. This is what's going on. You can go, oh, okay, here's a band I've never heard of. What is that? You're not going to show up unless you're specifically showing up. And I'm going to cover this out too, but unless you're specifically showing up for the purpose of learning or finding a new band to listen to, that's not going to entice you at all. Even if it's a hot chick on the front, maybe 3 more people will show up, and of course they'll be dudes, whatever. I mean, whatever it takes. But the bottom line is, there's not going to be some exposure. You're not this idea in your head that this exposure, these are going to be 50 people there that are going to hear me. No. What's going to happen is the other 2 bands, they're not even going to show up until they have to, because they don't want to show up an hour before unless they're specifically backlined. And even then, they'll show up, set up their gear, and as soon as they're done, they're gone. So if if you're lucky and you're the first band, you'll get exposed to the other 2 bands, and they're not listening to you because they don't give a shit. Sometimes, I mean, there are certain people, like my best friend Wendy, will listen to your band because she loves music. She will stay there and support you, and oftentimes so will I, because I actually do like listening to, especially original bands. I want to hear, good music, and I want to hear something new. I enjoy the experience of just hearing that stuff, and a lot of times people want to talk to me, and sometimes I just want to push their face away and be like, I just want to listen. There's not a lot of people out there that are like that. Most of your musicians are sick of it. They just want to get there and get done because they know the scene. They're not going to get exposure. To me, if you're a club owner and you're talking about exposure, here's what I expect and what you need to think about if you want bands to play at your club. What kind of exposure am I actually offering to these bands? Am I going to do any footwork at all to let any of my people know, and anybody that comes in here, that on Saturday I'm putting on this brand new, trying something out. I've got a bunch of local original bands. I've listened to them. That's the one thing you need to do. You need to listen to them, make sure that they fit your club. That's important. And then tell your people, everyone that comes in, Saturday, I'm doing an original artist showcase. There's going to be 3 brand new bands. I've listened to them. I really like them. I want to give them a leg up. I think you'll enjoy them too, a lot actually. And I want you to come in on Saturday and check them out. And you should be selling our asses from here to China. Well, for now, maybe stay away from China. Just kidding. You should be selling us because we're going to be selling it to our people. But what we're not going to be able to do is get the other band's people to come to see us, because those people, this is what happens. Band B and C have told their people, we go on at 9:30. Cool. Band B's people will be there at 9:45. We go on at 11:30, says Band C. Band C's people will be there at 11:30. By then, you've already played for the 12 people that were in the bar, plus the 4 band members from the other bands. And because inevitably only 6 band members show up from the other 2 bands somehow all night until the end, when the singer rolls in, plugs in his mic, and takes off. Nobody cares. And that's partially the club owner's fault. I'm sorry, you don't promote enough. I've seen it. I've been there. I've watched it happen. I've been involved in it. I'm not saying that you don't promote it. It's just not the right kind of promotion. A piece of pulp wood that's been flattened out and put ink on. There's no draw. There's no amount of artwork that's going to make somebody excited to listen to a band. The only thing that's going to do that is other people's opinion of them. And if your opinion is, hey, and this is what you should be doing, I'm booking bands I found that I really like. Because I'm sure you get bombarded with people wanting to play your club. I'm sure that it's a nightmare to have to try to sift through all that stuff. But I assure you, you can listen to 10 to 12 seconds of a song and we already know if it's going to fit your club or not. If you hear some candidates that are going to fit your club, maybe listen to a few of their songs. Take 6 minutes out of your day to listen to 2 songs. If they match up, hire them and then promote the shit out of this thing. You want to make money, right? And that's the whole point of saying, well, I'll give you exposure. You're trying to get people to come to your club to hear music. You're not paying for good music, so you're going to get whatever the fuck rolls in, and it's probably going to suck because the chances are most original bands suck. My band might to you. I don't know. I love our music, but most bands tend to suck. And if they're not practiced because they don't care, even if their music is great, they're still not going to be, they're going to suck. They're going to be lackluster. It's not going to be fun. So if you're going to put on a show that isn't a cover band, you should take it upon yourself to make sure that people know that you've hand-selected this group of bands to play at your club and you think that your people are going to like them. You're doing it for them. Come in and see it. Or poise yourself as a club owner, especially new club owners. Make a goal, perhaps, that my club is going to be dedicated, at least at some point, maybe once or twice a month, to promoting original local artists. I'm going to go listen. I'm going to take what people give me. I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to decide on bands that I want to play at my club that I can showcase, that are original, that I think are good, that I think most people will like. And then I'm going to tell people about it. So if I can't pay these bands right away, let's do a long-term goal. Let's do a long game. Come here. I can't pay you a lot of money. I will pay you something, but I can give you drinks and food. And then I'm going to be pushing this thing and trying to get people in here, including even possibly promoters in the area. I'm going to do what I can that isn't monetary equity. I'm going to do something for you to come play my club. Now, that said, as musicians, it's also on you to make sure that you are prepared. And I am guilty of this myself, and I'm working on it. Practice. You need to be prepared for this. There are a couple local bands in the area that I'm from. King Cumulus is one of them. You should check them out. They are so polished. They're a great bunch of dudes. They are awesome. I love their music. The singer, Sean, is fantastic. He's a great guitarist. He's a guitarist. I know his name, but it's escaping me because it's not as rock as it seems like it should be. But he's a fantastic, he's so practiced. He's so good at what he does. The drummer is got kind of a Stuart Copeland feel, but he's awesome. And their bass player is a great harmony singer and bass player. Like all around, these guys, when they show up to do your club, they're there and you know it, and they're good, and they make it sound amazing. Your club's gonna have fun with them, so you should book them. But you can't book a band like that without paying them in something, because they deserve it. And as you listen to them play and watch them play, you will see what I'm talking about. Otherwise, there's other bands out there that sort of show up and they turn up to 11. Musicians start thinking about your levels. It's not all about you as a guitarist. I know that guitarists love to be loud and want to be heard. It's not always about you. It's about the vocalist and the vocals. And it's about dynamics. I mean, do your part to think about an entire show, and don't just show up to play your guitar for 25, 30 minutes and noodle for, the whole time, louder than everybody, because nobody really cares how good you are as a guitarist if the song sucks. It's just the way it is. People love Stevie Ray Vaughan and Slash and the like because the songs that they're playing to are also good songs. So they're not only great guitarists, they just play catchy tunes. Be good at what you do so that a club owner will be proud to promote you. It's a symbiotic thing. We shouldn't be showing up with this attitude that I play guitar, I'm the shit. You should have an ego to the point where you're not afraid to get on stage and to put it out there. But that ego should never get in the way of being a professional. And that is why I say to you musicians, put down the attitude. You might be awesome. I don't care. If you're an asshole, I don't care how good you are. I won't listen to you at all. You could even have a song that I might love, but because you're a dick, I won't even bother. I wouldn't show up at that club. I would never show up there. Wherever I see your band, I would avoid it. Because I really don't like hanging around with people that can't be respectful. I don't like people that think they're better than everybody. It's just not the way it should be. We should be putting together a package wherein music is about whatever your music is about. That's what you should be. And if you are about being a dick, find a venue that likes that sort of music. Just let's all do our part to make sure that the product that we're providing is important. Because I'll tell you, it sucks to go out and play for an hour or two. Sometimes it might be raining outside, equipment is heavy. It takes at least 3 or 4 trips to the car because there's effects, there's things like cables and batteries, and you have to carry your guitars, there's amplifiers, microphones, all this stuff needs to get carried around. There's strings, there's maintenance involved in it, there's work being put into it. And when you get there and you're expecting all of this exposure that you're being promised, and there's only 12 people in the bar, all that effort you put into is like, it's like a trap. It's like you walked into a bear trap and now you can't get out because you don't want to be that band that cancels gigs at the last minute. You want to honor, most people want to honor their agreement. And so you play the show to the 12 people. And yeah, I mean, any time to play with your bandmates is always fun, but there's just an aspect of it that at the end of the day, I want some sort of equity, some sort of payout for what I do. Unless I agree to do a charity show and the sole purpose of doing that is to raise money for other people, if I'm going out to be selling CDs or to gain exposure, then a bar owner should be backing up that exposure by doing the best that they can to get that group of people in there for the exposure to mean anything, because it doesn't mean shit if there isn't anybody there. Exposure is not exposure if you're just playing to other bands and 6 people sitting at the bar. Also, my landlord surprisingly won't accept exposure when I try to give her the exposure that I've received from playing out. They won't accept that when I try to pay my rent in exposure. I can't tell my landlord, listen, you let me slide this month, and what I will do is I will go out and tell everybody about you owning this property so that you can, rent it out to other people? Wait, I'm living here. Oh, okay, so we'll settle on money then because exposure doesn't work for you? It's the same thing with any kind of craft. Okay? Exposure doesn't cover it. If you're not going to stand up and take some responsibility to make exposure worthwhile as a club owner, then don't offer it. Say we can't pay you and I've got 12 people, but I will absolutely let you play at my bar and give you free drinks. I would call her a friend. I have a bar out on Whidbey Island, and she's always liked me and having me play out there, and it's always been, kind of like flattering to have her, say, yeah, I'd love to have you play my club. I like going out there and playing it. She always pays me way more than she has to, and it's not like a high paying gig at all. But I have to get on a ferry. I drive over there. It's not a lot of gas. It's actually not that far if you count the ferry, but because it's not really that far to the ferry, and then from the ferry to her place, it's just the ferry, and then so it's a little bit involved. But she never makes me pay for a drink or food. If I eat there and I drink, it's free, and then it's something like $70 for 2 hours of music. It's actually a really good deal for me, and there's not a lot of people at her bar, and it's usually they're all in the bar, and I'm playing in a spot where it's really conducive to. She could have lots of dancers, and it's a nice wide open area, but it's typically empty. A lot of times there's some people in there eating, maybe a couple groups, but it's never packed. So I'm not getting exposure to a lot of people that I can see, but she makes it worth my while anyway. So it's not a problem playing that. And every time I go, I have a great time. I like to go. Last time I had to cancel it for being sick, but I'm just putting a point out there. I don't know how successful her club is. I don't live all the way beyond that. I don't visit it often. These are usually on Friday and Saturday nights, and there's people in there, but it's not the kind of like Snohomish, Washington level people. So I really don't know how good she's doing. I think she's opening another place, so I guess they're doing okay. But what I do know is that she doesn't have me come out and play and promise me something that she won't deliver. She actually under promises and over delivers. And as a club owner, I'm not imploring that you have to do that, but it goes a long way with getting good talent, because we put a lot of time and effort into the talent that we bring. And if we're going to show up and do an hour or more worth of music, we're putting time and effort into that, and we should get paid for that, like anybody else that has practiced their craft. No amount of gift is worth anything unless you put physical effort and time into it. Because no matter how much I already knew how music went, no matter how good a singer I was as a kid, no matter how musical my family was and how I knew what A, B, C, D, E, F, G was, and A minor and C, no matter how much I knew when I first started picking up that guitar, that knowledge was worth dick when my fingers were trying to form chords, because my fingers knew what it wanted to do, but the connection between my brain and my hand required a lot of practice before I could actually shape my hand that way without even thinking about it. It's not simple. Hand cramps. I'll be honest, learning how to play guitar, at first, it sucks. It's fun, yes, but it sucks. And there are times, that's why most people that start don't continue, because it's so hard to get your hand to do what you want it to do. When you finally do, with any consistency, it hurts so bad that it's almost like, why am I doing this? But after some 20 plus years playing for 3 hours, at the end of it, my fingers might be a little bit raw, but my voice actually suffers worse. So it's not, in the long run, it's something you can do, but it's effort that is required. And people put that same effort into learning how to build a deck on your backyard, learning how to put that sidewalk into your walkway so that you can maybe drive down the driveway, a house you live in. People practice that stuff. Nobody starts out knowing exactly how to put together a house, but after 20 years of building homes, that contractor is good at what he does and should be paid for it. He should be paid for it when he's starting out too, because he's still bringing value, but you don't pay those people as much. So brand new artist, you're an original act, great, come in here. I'll give it a $20 per band member. That pretty much would be break even for most of us on a gig that plays it for an hour or so, or two, or any gig really. $20 is probably break even, depending on how far we have to go. But it means that we're not getting paid for our time. It's just basically gas money and maybe a drink or two. $20 to $30 is break even. So if you have a 5-member band, $150 is the minimum that you should be spending. Maybe $150 on a band. Remember that you're talking about people, right? And people are putting the time in there. But at the same time, if you really don't want to be, if you want to be risk averse, then just say, hey, look, I want good bands in here, so I'm going to go ahead and hire you. But if people leave, if more than 10% of my people leave, I'm not paying you. So follow these rules and let's get along. As a band, you shouldn't have to have rules, but sometimes, those kinds of things are applicable. Like if you're just going to, if your people are older people and you're up there screaming about hate and Satan, they're probably going to leave, and that makes sense. But the club owner should also be on the hook to know that I shouldn't have hired a band that's going to scream hate and Satan at my older people. That's just how it should be. That's kind of a no-brainer. But I'll leave you with a thought. And we're talking cover bands here, but the whole concept can work for original bands if you want it to. Snohomish, Washington. It's a tiny town. It's an anomaly. It's a very strange place. I wouldn't say strange like people are weird or that there's crazy buildings. Arthur, what's his name? Lloyd, whatever, the designer, he didn't live there. Nothing like that. It's a small town, and if you're in Seattle, it's way too far out of the way for you. If you're in Monroe, and that's the closest large town to Snohomish, it's even a little out of your way from just 15 miles away. And Everett, it's out of the way. But where I live, it's a drive through farm country, basically, and I'm there in like 10 minutes. So it's not that far out for me, but it is podunk. I'm not saying that people are redneck, because in fact it's pretty much just city people. But the weird thing about this town is, on Friday and Saturday, every bar in that town, there's a strip, and every bar from one end to the other is packed. And every bar has some sort of music going on live, like either a DJ or an actual band, anywhere from classic rock to country to alternative rock. It's all happening there. People are dancing. You walk down the street, there's massive amounts of people. It's not the kind of thing you would expect to see from this town. That's what I mean by it's weird. And it's always packed. There used to be a club out there. It's called Mardini's. It's no longer there. It for some reason he went out of business, and I really doubt it was for lack of money. I mean, it's a restaurant, so it's a restaurant and a bar, so maybe, but he was a pretty shrewd business guy. I think he wanted to get into antiques, because then he opened up an antique store that's no longer there. But what this guy did was he made it kind of an elite club. He didn't have bands in there that were necessarily modern. You know, we're not talking rap was in there, and hip hop and DJs and things like that. He always had a classic rock band playing in there, but he always chose classic rock bands that were good at what they did. And therefore, if you were going to play at Mardini's, you had to be good at what you did. If you weren't good enough, he wouldn't hire you. Even though you're playing the same songs that maybe another band does, and sometimes especially then. But even if you were playing similar music and you were pretty good at that, you had to be special enough to him to hire you. And he would hire you on Friday and Saturday, so the whole weekend. So the beauty of that was, it was $400 a night for the band or more. You show up, you put your music gear up, and then you leave it there for the next night, and you come back, and you play again, and then you take your stuff down and you go home. So it's one setup and one takedown for 2 gigs. And that's a sweet deal for a cover band, as you might know, if you're a cover band or in a cover band. But he didn't have crap bands in there. And there was, arguably, his place was the busiest of all the places in Snohomish. So while he had a better chance of having that business because of the sheer volume of people, you could go to other clubs, and some of them had far less people where you could still sit down. You could never sit down at Mardini's. He was just that good at hiring bands. But he took some effort, and he put that effort into it, and he developed the relationships with the band. And he was a great guy. I think he was, I want to say Lebanese. It doesn't matter, but he was a great guy. You know, you talking to him, you're like, this guy is a business owner. He's obviously a no bullshit kind of guy, but he likes to joke around. He pays every night. He's on time. Very shrewd. Very good at what he does. And that's the point. You should be like Mardini. Be like Zoo Mardini. He put effort into it. He made it a goal to provide good dance quality music every Friday and every Saturday. And he had a solid rotation of bands. And you had to be good enough to play his club. Again, it's not good enough to the... it wasn't like Frank Zappa, where if you missed a note, he fired you. It wasn't like that. But you had to be enough that people wouldn't leave his club. And nobody did. But, like, even though all the clubs were packed, the Oxford is another one, for example, that's still doing what it does. They bring people in. It's pretty much always packed. Stewart's used to be pretty poppin'. It's not as poppin' anymore. But anytime a certain band shows up there, like the Shortcuts, lots of people show up because, and this is no fault or slam on any of the other bands in the Snohomish area, but the Shortcuts are also one of those bands, like King Cumulus, that has really talented people. They're very good at what they do. They're very practiced. And, I mean, Taryn, the main guy, I guess he works like 7 days a week. He's either playing a gig or working a job, and sometimes both, several nights a week. So... yeah, he's practiced. He's fantastic. He's got an excellent voice. He's a great guitarist. You've got, I guess his name is Fred on the drums. And, of course, he's got a fantastic voice. He'll fool you. He looks like he's just a crazy drummer, but he's also a fantastic singer, fantastic drummer, dynamically and technically. And then you got Ted. And Ted is just, I don't know, he's kind of a goofy guy, but he's really cool. Great bass player, solid on the bass, very solid guy. 3-piece, you go in there, people want to listen to these guys, so they bring people in, and club owners know that, and so that's the thing. I'm like, I feel like there's no effort in this area anymore for club owners who care about music. They just want to make money. Understandably, I'm not saying anything wrong with that, because there isn't. That's why you open a club, but if you're going to have entertainment, consider that exposure is not paying anybody's rent. If you're going to offer exposure, you should actually that should actually mean something. It should have some sort of equity. You should be able to have some sort of payoff. I should be able to sell 15 CDs at a night for $10 to make up for the money that you can't pay me because of your exposure. If I don't get the sales that night, the exposure should be bringing people to my website to download my MP3s, to spread the word. The next time I show up at your club, if your exposure is worth the shit and I'm any good, the next time I come to your club, there should be even more people there to see us because they heard of us last time. But if I go out to play a club and exposure is my reward, and I see 4-6 people sitting on the bar that I know are there every day because that's where they hang out, and nobody new is coming in, and the place is packed, I'll give you a real world scenario. I recently played a club. I'm going to call them out. I don't think anyone even from around here knows. It's called Haley's. A friend of ours put us up along with King Cumulus, a band that we play well with because they're similar kind of genres, I guess. Similar, not identical. And there is nothing wrong with King Cumulus, and of course they have their people, but Waiting on Wendy draws a lot of people, primarily because Wendy goes to a lot of shows and those people notice and they come to support her as well, and they like our music. So when Waiting on Wendy does a show, there's always a good solid 15 to 20 people, if not more, just there to see us. And sometimes it's more, and then we go do the show, and King Cumulus isn't from this area, so we don't really expect anything for them to bring a draw, and then we know they're going to bring people. We don't expect them to, though, just because they're not from this area. They don't know people. I'm not trying to slam them, and that's not the point of what I'm saying. I'm saying that we brought most of the people, and King Cumulus got the gig that we didn't get later. Not to say that we were deserving of it. That's not my point. And King Cumulus absolutely was. The point is, this is the kind of thing that happens. That bar, I think that was even on a Saturday. Maybe it was a Thursday. That bar was empty other than the people we brought. We brought almost all the people. There were like 6 other people in that bar that were there when we got there. And I know those people are regulars. Because they knew the bartender. That you could just tell. They're regulars. And then we play our set, and then King Cumulus plays their set, and they rock the fuck out of it. We stuck around. I always try to stick around for them. And at the end of the night, like Ben is like, yeah, we want to have you guys back. And to me, that was like, okay, that's a good call. You're thinking of it from a musician standpoint. That's how you should be. We brought the people, though, so the exposure from the club owners for the club is like, that could have been nice. We would have been your choice in terms of how many people came. But musicianship, King Cumulus, well, maybe we should have. I think we did all right. We could do better. I need to practice more. King Cumulus, though, was on the level that if you hired them, you would be happy, and they should have got the gig anyway, no matter what we do. We should have got the gig too, but they definitely should have gotten the gig. Club owners should think of it that way. The professionalism they brought, the sound that they do, the dynamics they have, the quality that they put into it. That's what you should be as a musician, and club owners should be looking for that sort of thing and not worrying about the exposure and not worrying about what was I thinking? Not worrying about like how many people they can bring in. Not worrying about the draw. You as a club owner should try to establish your choices of music in your community as desirable. That's on you. When somebody goes to your club, they want you to have something besides alcohol, probably. Better have alcohol, but something else. And if you're going to provide anything else, it should be good. And they're going to trust you, and they're going to like what you have to offer if you do it right. So think about that. And that's it. Let's just not worry. Let's get rid of this exposure thing, okay? Exposure is not a payment. Exposure is not an equity. It doesn't have any value to anybody. Real value is pay us to do a gig. Pick the right bands for your club so that when you pay us, You don't feel like you're getting ripped off, and then everybody wins because your people will love us. Waiting on Wendy has done some shows that have been phenomenal and packed on our own. We've also played and opened for people that bring a lot of people and got our exposure. Those are the kinds of things where another band asked us to play, and we said yes because we knew there'd be a lot of people there. They even paid us, but we weren't. That wasn't the point. The club didn't contact us for exposure. The other band said, will you play with us? And that's a situation where, as a brand new band, you want that, because this band has a lot of people that come to their shows. Our band had similar, we kind of had a crossover actually, but there were still a lot of people there for my band and for the Michelle Taylor band. So we had this huge turnout of people, and it was a fun gig because they were good and we played better. It was a good experience for everybody. And if you're a band, what you should be doing, don't worry about these club owners. So this is my final message to brand new bands. If you're ready to take your product live, you've got all the gear you need, or you're geared up enough that as long as they have a PA system, you're good to go. Nobody knows you. You've got a few people that are waiting to hear you, but you're basically unknown, and club owners don't want to do it because they want you to have a draw, or you find yourself pressured to play for exposure. Here's what I want to tell you. You don't have to. You will get a gig. Somebody will pay you to play. I promise you. My first gig as an original artist was a paying gig that paid pretty well for a brand new band. They will pay you. You just have to find the right club. If you cannot find the right club, here's your next move. Go out, meet bands, find ones that are similar to you that also seem to have a lot of people at their shows. Put on a show with them. Even if you have to set it all up, have them agree to let you open for them, and then set the show up with a club owner and say, hey, this band wants to play. They bring a lot of people. They say, great, here's the date. You say, okay, we're going to open for them. Then they're going to go on. Get involved. Make friends with other bands that are doing well in the area, and start there if you really want to get paid for it. Otherwise, be ready for your exposure to be 6 old dudes that have been sitting on that same stool long enough that it probably matches their ass print. And to you I say toda or namaste, whatever. Just remember that exposure is not, about 9 times out of 10 from a club owner, not what you're envisioning. Not at all. Not even close. Not even a tenth of it. Club owners do nothing to try to get you exposure. That exposure is a dangling carrot that as soon as you get there, you realize that carrot is gone. And I'm sure the 6 people would love to have heard your music if they weren't so fucking drunk already that they were talking over you anyway. So exposure is worth shit. Unless that exposure happens to be, I mean, here's an extreme example, but it makes a point. If you're an opening act for like the Foo Fighters or Metallica or whatever, you're gonna get exposure. That's just the way it is. But you're not opening for Metallica. You're not opening for Eminem. You're not opening for these bands. You're opening for Sally's Blues Band. Who cares? Who cares about them? And if that is your band name, I don't know you. I'm just coming up with the name out of thin air. But, I mean, who cares about that band if they're not known, right? That's not the kind of exposure you want to get unless Sally's Blues Band plays bigger clubs because the draw she has can't fit into a smaller venue. All right, so that's my rant about exposure. To sum it up, bar owners, we don't care about your stupid exposure. But if you're going to offer it, at least you should try to get that exposure into the club and make sure we actually get that exposure that matters. Otherwise, pay these people that have put time and effort into trying to bring out entertainment for you, and scrutinize them so that you know that you're bringing in the correct talent for your club. It shouldn't be that hard for you to know your people and to know what kind of music they'd be interested in terms of original music. And take 20 minutes out of your day to go through songs and pick bands if that's what you're trying to do. But stop trying to get away without paying people. And that goes for anybody, really. Stop trying not to pay people that do things, because people practice to do things to get better at them so that they have value to somebody. And if you're devaluing that, also if you're devaluing yourself and not asking for money for your efforts, we should stop that. There's no point. It's disrespectful to everybody involved. It's disrespectful to the club owner to say, I'll play your club for free because I suck, so I'm going to make sure that your people may have a terrible experience. Club owners are telling you, I don't value you enough to reach into my pocket and give you money for the effort that you've put in to contacting me, being good at what you do, and performing in front of people. I'm not paying you for that because it's no value to me. But I will let you play my club for exposure. These are disrespect. That's what it is. It's disrespect. Value your time and effort. Value it correctly. Don't overinflate your value. Value it correctly. Be honest with yourself. If you're a club owner, value the people that want to play your club unless they don't have the type of value that you need. And take a minute to listen, and then pick the right bands for your club so that you're not pushing your own people away. And then if you promise exposure, promote the gig to get that exposure there. Otherwise, you're just taking advantage of people. It should be that simple. Anyway, sorry about sound quality. I'm going to end this now, but definitely log or subscribe, like, whatever, or dislike if you have anything to say. Say it in the comments. The only thing I ask is argue all day. Tell me I'm wrong and tell me why, but don't insult me. I won't insult you back. Don't insult each other. Make your points. It's easy to just say, hey, I think you're wrong because, other than saying you're an idiot because nobody's going to listen to it, and you might actually have a valid point, and if you don't insult me, I will consider your point, and I might be wrong. Comments should be like that. Like and subscribe. I'm going to be on here periodically discussing poor thinking and other things that I think people need to change. Not that it's up to me, but it's fun to talk about. So, hope to see you back.